So a lot of designers and landscape architects use these types of felt tip marker pens with just small points. But what I want to show you that even though these type are great for your line drawings and they're okay with your plant material depending on your technique, I'd like to show you some other markers that you might enjoy better. I don't know what you've tried yet, but now brush markers you might have come across already. Is that right? So brush tip markers are great. So it's got a bendable tip, but it's felt tip. You can get them as nylon filament, which are really nice, but I think that it's not really necessary to go through that expense, that these are quite nice. So they allow you to do, like we looked at that one bush, a light wiggly line on the top, and then it's easy to add some texture with that. So what I'm going is I'm going on the side of the brush now, adding in a little bit of form. So we want to have color down one side and underneath. So, and if you wanted, you can add a little texture here and there. But so those are nice, and we'll do a little more work on those. And you can get really big broad tips too. And they're a lot faster. And I really like this one. It's got a lot of juice, lasts a long time, because it's an extra big body, so you're throwing your away fewer pens. And I love this one because I can get quite a nice line, but just turning it sideways, I can get a really strong shadow really easily. So you can see that it's much more painterly, and you can, or if you have a loose style, and be able to get it on there pretty quickly. And it's also kind of nice is if you go kind of quickly with it, you see you can use it more kind of dry brush. So this one pen can do a lot of stuff if you have a bold style, right? It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea though. But you notice what I'm doing is there's always a highlight side and a shadow side, down the side and underneath. And that's the thing that a lot of people are missing is the contrast under the plant or in between the plant. So that's one of the things we're going to work at, not just different texturing techniques, but just how to create enough contrast that we can see our groupings of different plants. So brush tips are great for landscape architects. So that for sure you'd want to get. You can also get sets like this that have landscaping colors in the brush tips. So that's something that can be nice to be able to sketch with. The other type of pen that you might not have tried yet is a VTip pen. Has anybody tried one of those? So it's got a tip that is shaped actually like a triangle, and it's thin, so that it's kind of shaped like that, like a little chisel point, so that you can turn it in different directions and get different types of lines. I'm off the edge. So with a VTip pen, I really like it because I can get really fine lines. If I like to have a little more refined style where I'm doing something more delicate. And just by turning the pen, I can get a thicker line. And what I really love about this is if I roll the pen in my fingers, I can get thick to thin. So let's try it. So it's using a pen in a bit of a different way. So what if I wanted to do a little bush? I can twist and turn the pen. And be able to get a sense of twigs and branches being different sizes and thicknesses. So it's quite nice to be able to have that chisel-shaped pen. Calligraphy pens are nice to use too because of their wedge-shaped tip. And so that you don't have to stop to pick up another bigger pen when you're doing your drawing, you can just do it all with one. So we're going to look at a couple of styles of drawing right now. So that gives you a bit of an introduction. So this kind of pen, as you see, you can get a variety of lines from it, and that you can change the line as you go with a bit more of a crisp look. So, and I find that this pen is particularly nice if you're kind of the scribbler type drawer and you want a really loose scribbly drawing. So let's say we're going to do a few deciduous trees. So again, it's a similar thing that we want a highlight side. And how scribbly you can be is up to you. But it gives a really energetic kind of look. And then on the shade side, you're going to turn onto the side of the pen more. So the angle of the pen goes lower down onto the page. And just kind of scribble on the shade. Using the side of the pen more for the trunk. So, and what's great about this kind of style is if you are going to add in some other elements, you can be really quite sketchy with it and more vague, more conceptual, and get away with it. You don't have to be really great at drawing people and stuff because they can just be a little scribble. You know, like, okay, here's a person. So really great when you're really focusing more on design and massing, and you just want to get a quick concept sketch, because if you do want to be more refined anyway in your design process, once you're further along, you might be switching onto the computer anyway. So concept sketches want to necessarily be more loose. So you see how quickly and forgiving this kind of style of drawing is. And a pen that I can keep changing my direction is really nice. And yet still get fine construction lines. Let's say I want to set up a little pergola or something back here. Just with really light pressure. I can kind of get my construction in and then add in the shadow really easily. Because this pen, I can just turn it sideways. So one of the problems with the brush tip pens is they're not hard enough to give me good control on the hardscaping or the building aspects. So that's what's really nice about this V-type pen. The other great feature about this pen is you can buy refills for it. So it's not just a throwaway. And I love this fat one here. So the other pens, when I was working as a designer, the pens that I used the most, I'll show you those, and then we'll move on to more types of vegetation drawings. A fairly standard pen to use. Got to find the right one here. That's kind of why I like some of these pens that you can tell what they are. Like when you're working fast and it's late at night, that's the V-Groove one because it's different. And then there's the big brush pen. These guys, you got to read the little label. Anyway, so, but I like them for drafting because you can use a straight edge with these because of the metal tip, and that doesn't mess up your drawing instruments. But it does give you a measured size, similar to what the technical pens used to be, but also a little bit of a flexible nib to it that if you push on it and pull up, you'll get a little bit of a variation, not the amount that you would with a brush pen, obviously, right? But it gives you more control than a brush pen. So these are still really good for sketching, especially if you're doing the buildings and the hardscaping stuff. So you can get them at different widths. Like this is a 0.5. I find for landscape sketching that I'm going to want a bigger pen than a thin one. And you can change the thickness by pushing harder on the pen or turning it more sideways. or using it more upright and speeding up. So what I'm doing, I'm leaning on my pinky, and so if any of you have pens like this, maybe you can try that to see how many different line thicknesses you can get. If you start with the very point, a little more upright, leaning on your pinky and going fast, you can get a thin line. This is a 0.5. It's considered a heavier or thicker pen, and so it replaces a whole bunch of pens under that. So one, you save some money, but it's mostly time. So that if I want to do a sketch of something, like let's say we're going to do that little gazebo again, or I want to set up a few vanishing points maybe and get the basic drawing there. So you see one of the things I'm doing also is leaning the pen just where it's just grazing the paper, so it's really on a slow angle. And that's sometimes easier for laying out a rough sketch. So I just lightly get it in there. And draw my lines. And if I want to be really exact with my style, I can with this type of pen by holding it at a more natural, normal angle. Or I can be more sketchy like we were showing earlier and holding the pen a little bit farther back and on a little bit more of an angle so you can have a quicker, looser style. So that's one of the things that if you're a person who loves to be really precise, you're going to hold your pen a little closer to the tip. And if you're a little more sketchy and quick, you're going to hold your pen a little bit farther back along the body of it. So that's something that you might want to try, just different ways of holding your pen to achieve different results. So, and what I like about these, that if I want to create some plant material, or something where, let's say I'm going to do a curved paving line, I can push and pull on the nib and get thick to thin happening. So it's nice if you're drawing urns or something and you want to create some sense of roundness. So they're a very flexible pen. They do wear out after a while, but they last fairly long. And that's one reason why I like buying the bigger ones and just using less pressure with them, because the thin ones wear out very quickly. So it's better to just put less pressure on that so that you can get more out of it. So often what I'll do is just do a sketch with a 0.5. And I can use that for almost everything, especially if I have a sort of scribbly style, because my scribble can build up my tone, right? And I can be very precise if I want, and I can do hatching if I want, all with this one pen. And if I want thinner lines, it's just less pressure. So leaning on the edge of your hand a bit, or on your elbow when you're sitting down. The other thing I think it's good to have, so I'd have a 0.5 or a 0.2 if you find the 5 too heavy. And then some type of bullet tip pen. So this is a Pentel sign pen. I really like these. So I used to always use what you're using there, Julian. What's that one called? The fine liner, the Pilot fine liner, and then the Pentel sign pen. Those two cheap pens, but they work great because they have that pen again. It has quite a lot of variety to its thickness. But then a heavier pen where you can add some shadows really quickly. So something that has that bullet shape, so it's like this, right? Allows you to really quickly lay in some shadows and a little bit of extra strength here and there. So, because design is all about drawing fast, right? It's so you guys, you know, I've shown you some of my renderings. They're a lot more precise, but as a designer, you want to be quick and loose, right? Same, graphic. So this is a chisel point pen, so meant for calligraphy, right? So, which can be nice too for your labeling if you like to get fancy. There's a movement in graphic arts now to go back to hand typography for sketching. Especially great on conifers, I find, because you've got this thick, thin line. So you can pull it vertically or turn it sideways. So great little technique, really nice for doing trees, because you can turn it sideways for the trunk and then pull it up. So, and twist it a bit as you're drawing your branches. So it's worth having a few different types of pens in your supply case. And so one of the things you notice that in landscape sketching, an inconsistent line is what you're after, right? A kind of a wiggly, uneven drawing line. And always twisting or changing pressure, changing angle a little bit, and keeping in mind the highlight side. So, and then you could put, so what's nice about these two, either the brush pens or this pen, is you can use it for leaves if you like to have every leaf, but that depends on your style. I think it's too much work personally for most design sketches, but everybody's got, going to have a different way. I find these really nice for doing, if you've got a few closer up shots of maple trees, because maple trees, their leaves tend to lay kind of flat in layers. So one of the things that I'm going to suggest to you guys is that you start looking around at what's the sort of growth pattern of that type of tree or bush or flower. How do the leaves lay? What's the growth pattern on the branches? So and different pens will stand for that. So that's what this presentation was about.